On Second Shot, we tackle 2 new headlines every week to find out what kind of wisdom the world is dishing out today. And we want you to be a part of that. When you see a headline you want to take a second shot at, or if you're looking for advice, or just want to tell us what you think of the show, email us at secondshotcast@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, rate us on iTunes. This helps us move up in the ratings so more people will see us. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to the show so that the new episodes will get straight to you every single Friday. We love you. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
There's a lot of news in the world today.
News that might surprise you, startle you, upset, or maybe impress.
News that's not always for the faint of heart.
That's why the man who failed his way to success, Heath Oakes, is stepping up.
Tackling today's headlines with ignorance on fire in a way only a millennial mogul can.
Take off your sport coat, grab a beer, and enjoy the conversation.
This is Second Shot with your host, Heath Oakes.
I have decided wholeheartedly when I want to commit a crime, I'm going to wear blue jeans, a sweater, and a hat because nobody can recognize me.
You are unrecognizable. You came in here, I don't think I've ever seen you with a hat on. I don't think I've seen you dressed down either, but the hat completely threw me off.
I don't
you look
wear
like a 12-year-old.
I've known Robert. We got Robert here, guys. Hey, welcome to the
What's
show.
up?
We got Robert Halbert. We got Matt in the studio.
Yes, hello.
Y'all have heard Robert several times on the deal. Robert, you've known me my whole life. How many times have you seen me wear a hat?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I saw you walk through the parking lot.
downstairs
I thought you
didn't
were
know
a
that was me.
college kid or something and just...
And you've known me my whole life.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know that was me. That's what's funny. So if I commit a crime, it will be
Now,
in an outfit like this.
Let's talk. You've had this hat on, and it's from 1984.
Yep.
Were you even born in 1984?
Nope.
Okay. It says Reagan and Bush on it. So for all you young listeners, you'll have to Google who Reagan and Bush is maybe, but you know, it's a good looking hat.
It's the Reagan Bush.
Is that like
presidential
vintage?
team.
Is that
That's a vintage,
from the time period?
Yeah. It's the
That's
vintage
cool.
hat. I just thought it was
And it
cool.
looks brand new.
Yeah,
So
it is brand new.
It's
I just got it for
cute.
Christmas.
Yeah, he got it for Christmas.
I did. I like the hat. I don't know why you're hating on my hat.
I'm not hating on your hat. I think you look great in it.
Thank
It
you.
makes
I think how was your
mean,
Christmas?
Mine was
it good?
great. How
Yeah.
about yours?
It was pretty good. We went out to the country. I have family out in Springtown, out west of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
My dog ran away for about 20 minutes. That was scary, but other than that, it was a pretty good vacation.
I got a dog. I wish did run away. Santa Claus brought it last year, and I tried to stay up this year and make sure I could tell Santa Claus about this damn dog he brought us, but I never saw him. So
apparently, the trick is to just let your family leave it outside and not tell you, and then it'll disappear into a cow pasture.
They could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. What's funny is I can't believe I'm sitting down. My butt hurts so bad. Like, my wife is like, she was a snowboard instructor. She grew up in North Idaho, so she grew up snowboarding all the time. And she would go she would like snowboard instruct for like 3 hours at this place, and they would give her a free lift ticket for the rest of the day so she could go snowboard and stuff. And so we go up there, and we almost got divorced over this. Now, you got to understand something. I've snowboarded 3 times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my butt is already black and blue by the first time we go down something. Well, then I finally start getting some turns down. She said, this is in quotes, she accidentally took the wrong turn and we went down a black diamond.
Oh, no. I'm green only, buddy.
My fat
green
butt
only.
was rolled up in 5 foot of snow, couldn't get out of it. Couldn't get out of the snow. I'm laid up against trees. By the next thing you know, I got the snowboard off, thrown it, and I am cussing.
How do you get that? You have no choice at that point just to get down the mountain, right? Like,
Yeah, you have no choice.
Down.
Matt, Matt, you get to where I almost got divorced over this.
I've been skiing one time, and it was cool. I want to go back. I was telling Heath when they were up there because he was talking about going snowboarding that I've been kind of having the itch to go back and go skiing. I think it's funny you say that because he's like, oh, you should snowboard, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna stick with the skiing if I go back. But
well, kind of the
definitely interesting.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of
no black for me.
Kind of the opposite of divorce we got on the new headline. This headline from this past week is headline: Engaged. Check out the ring as Jordan Spieth seemingly pops the question to his high school sweetheart.
Yeah, that's nice.
Jordan Spieth finally popped the question to his high school sweetheart. Been with her for a long time. Got her obviously a very nice, beautiful ring. And if you don't know who Jordan Spieth is, you're under a rock. And he is one of the most famous professional golfers. He's from here in Dallas, and seemingly so far, Jordan Spieth has this good guy image.
Right, seems like a pretty good dude as far as we can tell.
Everything anybody says, he is nothing but a good guy.
I guess you never know these days, but I'm gonna bet that he's all right.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
And Spieth been with this girl since high school.
Hope it doesn't mess up his golf game. Sometimes my baseball coaches tell me all the time, you don't need a girlfriend right now. It's gonna.
Well, she's been with him since high school.
He'll probably be okay.
So they've been, it's not
Wait
like
till they have a Brighton running around. That may
that will
mess up his
change
golf
things
game.
in a heartbeat.
Or an Ava.
So one of the things about this, I thought this was a perfect topic coming into New Year's, just to kind of talk about marriage in general. I'm only a year and a half or so into mine. You're what, 10 or so?
10 years, September 5th this year.
So and I'm a new dad. You're not a new dad. You've been a dad for a while. I've had some very surprising things. What's surprising to me is that if I am a father that just like maybe washes my daughter's bottles and changes her diaper and watches her like a parent should, I get all the time, man, you're such a good dad. My wife is like over there trying to get her off of biting her breast because she's got to feed her all the time, pumping everywhere she goes, and working full time doing all this. And nobody's always like, "You're such a good mom." They expect that from her,
right?
But from us as a dad, that's not. And whenever I do stuff as far as a husband, that I will post something on Facebook or something of acknowledging how awesome my wife is. Some people are like, "Oh, I like how you do that." You know what? This has got to change, guys. The New Year's, this shouldn't be. It should be the same way. Like, it should be the cool thing to be the awesome dad that actually does stuff with your kid. And it should be the cool thing to actually love your wife and appreciate and be grateful, like, and not be, like, it not cool. Like, it should be cool to be 100% faithful and awesome to your wife. Don't you agree?
I agree 100%. I mean, the funny thing about, like, a marriage for me, being married 10 years, I was actually in a serious /marriage relationship before, and it was totally different. Once you get to with the right person that you gel well with, it's pretty fun. Now, I will tell you, after 10 years,
don't you got to make decisions though to make it work too?
Absolutely, you got to work. It's a full-time job. I mean, and the great thing, for me in a funny way is my wife is really, she's always pushed me to be better as a person, be better as a husband, be better as a dad. Sometimes I'm hard on myself a lot, because I don't know that I'm as good a dad or as good of a husband as I need to be. But the bottom line is I'm always trying to get better. I don't know if it's out of fear.
Yeah, but you're always with your kids and everything all the time, too. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's good. You're always with your kids. You're always involved with your kids. Your kids become first in your life as well. You're on that same level that I hope that I can be on as well, that you're further down the road. But why is that not cool? Why is it cool?
It's a culture thing. It's a culture. Yeah. It's just, you look up and, and I say it all the time, and I like to do what I like to do sometimes too.
Absolutely, I do too. But my wife should too. My wife should have her own
most
stuff
of my buddies that are like, "Oh man, it's miserable as hell," blah blah blah, and then I'm like, "Hey, when's the last time you did something with your wife?" I don't know. Yeah. When's the last time you got off your dead ass and washed some dishes? You know, that's the kind of stuff that you look at and go, "Hey, if you want to have a happy marriage, put some effort into it." I get a lot of comments. I open my wife's door every time we get in the car. I have for 12 years.
Yeah.
People go, "Oh, you still do that?" Yeah. Absolutely, I do it. That's just a gesture of my appreciation for all the great things she does.
I do think it's a cultural thing, too, in that guys are, like, so little is expected of guys. I mean, guys throughout, like, commercials and television and movies, like, guys are made out to be buffoons, and they're not responsible. They're always the ones that are...
Because the majority of the time, they're not.
No, that's true. I mean, it comes from a true place.
We're all not. We have to work at it.
I think everybody believes that's what a guy is. It's just like this bumbling idiot who can't get things together and is not taking care of their kids or is doing whatever. And I guess it is surprising when someone breaks out of that mold.
And that's what I want everybody to kind of go into this New Year's. And if you're a guy listening to this, look, I fully believe that the cool thing is being the dad and being the husband. I think the cool thing is being faithful to your spouse. I think the cool thing is being whooped by your wife. That should be what you should strive for, because I fully believe that what you put in something, you get out of it. And
for sure.
The reason why I don't ever bitch, because if I want to go race go-karts or I want to go do whatever, my wife doesn't gripe at me. You know why? Because I do for my wife.
Right.
I give her breaks. She deserves it as much as I do.
Right. She trusts you'll be there when you're not doing that stuff.
Yeah, and this isn't this whole equality speech. This is more so that a call to dads to step up and be the men they need to be. You'll be a man, be tough. No, a man should be a husband and a father.
Sure, for sure.
My daughter's not going to question who her daddy is. I've been there every step of the way. And that's what I've always I like about you. Everything you and Amy do either revolves around your kids or you and Amy.
For sure.
And here's the other thing that you and Amy do is y'all don't just do it all kids. There are many times you and her do your trips to Dallas by you and her coming to the hotel, and that's important.
I always tell and Amy and I both agree. You know, when you really get down to it, at the end of the day, when your kids are grown, they're going to go find their person. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you see moms or dads that put their kids.
Jenny and I did the same thing.
So far,
we
first,
put
so
our
far
kid,
first,
our spouse first.
Right. Your number one's got to be your spouse. And because if they're not, when your kids are gone, what do you have? What do you have left?
That's why so many people get divorced after 30 years.
Down the stretch of 10 years, I can tell you, you really got to get focused on what really matters and really make sure, because it gets tough sometimes. I mean, it's not always just sunshine and rainbows.
You have to make an effort. You have to make a decision. Like it is. Like people think, oh, it's love that is easy. No, it's not. No, you still have to. I have to make a decision on a daily basis to remind myself. Do something for your wife. Make sure your wife knows she's.
Right.
You know, those just don't come out of just naturally. You have to make that decision. I want to make a call to action on the first of the year. I want the new thing for men to be cool, to be a husband and to be a father. I think that should be the new norm, don't you?
Absolutely, and I'll tell I always say this too. I can always get better at it. So I always let everybody know that. Well, I'm not perfect by any means.
Well, we're going to come on back here on the second segment. We're going to talk a little bit about some burnt bagels. This should be pretty funny.
I like burnt bagels.
He's a suit and tie kind of guy with deep Southern roots. Heath Oaks hosts more of Second Shot coming up on RNCN.
Hear ye. Great news for all of you guys. Colonial Life is hiring some salespeople from all over the country. No matter where you are in the United States of America, if you're looking for a sales career, if you want to just learn more about what Colonial Life does, send an email to mbeltran@coloniallife.com. mbeltran@coloniallife.com. We'll get you set up with the right people you need to talk to and see if you're going to win that job. If you're in the Metroplex area, great. If you're in St. Louis, great. We're going to have office there for you. mbeltran@coloniallife.com and change your career today.
Ready? Aim. Fire. Second Shot is back for another round on RNCN.
I can't lie, I was laughing so hard we ended that last segment, and Robert, like in a sexy voice, is like, burnt bagels.
I don't even eat bagels.
That was in like a sexy voice, too. He's like,
I was just trying to be funny. You see, it worked out. I at my own expense, but it
Never
worked
heard
out.
someone so excited about
and you
burnt
laughed
bagels.
as soon as you said it because you realized, why did I do that?
It's great. Y'all make sure y'all hear that part and leave some sort of feedback for that for me. That'd be great.
Burnt bagels.
I'm going to say that everywhere I go now. Burnt bagels. Maybe Einstein Brothers will hook us up.
Maybe that'll be the new random saying out of nowhere, you know? Like,
burnt bagels. Can you imagine Einstein? I mean, they could be
to mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah.
It can be just totally random. Well, the reason we're talking about burnt bagels is because we got this next headline, which is, well, it's funny if you weren't there. If you were at the St. Louis airport, this is probably not very funny to you. But it said burnt bagel forces St. Louis airport evacuation on freezing night. So apparently, there was just a chilly night. How cold was it, Matt?
11 degrees. I'd say that rates a little bit more than just a chilly night.
Yeah, 11.
Cold as hell where we come
That's
from.
cold. That's cold. An employee burnt a bagel at a restaurant terminal. Okay, nothing. I mean, that happens a lot. Let's all be honest here. Yeah. Burning bagels is kind of normal. But what was funny is that they didn't know what happened or where it came from. A little bit of a burnt bagel. Next thing you know, they evacuated everybody.
Right. There's an alarm. There's smoke going. And people don't know what's happening.
Be that much smoke. Like it's a burnt bagel. Like it's not like a billow. Not like this. Like just.
What about the aroma? I mean, at some point, that doesn't smell like anything that should make you.
You're right. That should smell good, right?
Well, I don't know if it smells good, but it smells like a burnt bagel.
A while ago, we went burnt bagel. That was good. Hundreds of travelers. They walked out the tarmac, walked outside. They had to stand out in 11-degree weather for 10 minutes, and then had to come back through and go all back through check-in, security, and everything again, all because of a burnt bagel.
But let's wait a minute. Was it really because of a burnt bagel?
Well, you're right. Exactly where I was going and thinking about this was, if you talk to people that work with Robert and I, okay, for instance, they will all tell you that the key to our success is systems. And that took both of us time to learn because it wasn't a natural thing for us to do. But we have a system in place for everything now. We have systems for everything to follow. And here's the thing is, here's when people ask me, well, what's your system? Here's a system. Are you a coffee drinker, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. In your house, you have a coffee pot and stuff?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
We
so
have 2.
Wherever your coffee pot is typically, are your coffee mugs kind of probably in the counter above it or below it?
The coffee mugs are right above it. The coffee filters are in the cabinet below it.
Okay. So if I was a coffee drinker and I had my coffee deal over here on this counter, and then you walked over 10 foot every morning because the coffee cups were on the other side of the kitchen, and then your filters were in the pantry, and your actual coffee was in the garage. Would that make sense?
No, that would not make any sense
So
whatsoever.
you as a coffee drinker, what you inherently did is you created a system because when you first moved in your home, you walked down trying to find all the cups. You said, I'm going to put the cups right here.
Right.
I'm gonna put all. That's a system. You created a system to make your coffee experience more efficient.
Now, the truth is my wife has bought too many coffee cups, and so they're all over the house, but the ones I use
But we're right there.
are where
Yeah.
I want them to be.
That's a system, and that's where I get doing people. It seems like to me,
Right.
these people in St. Louis didn't have no system to go. Maybe one person could have just ran around and realized it was a burnt bagel, but they have obviously zero systems in place. What is your thought on systems?
Well, I mean, I live and die by a system. I mean, and the thing is like when I look at it, it goes all the way through the whole. If you look at a system from from the beginning to the end, is all the way down to the report and the troubleshooting of your system and everything else. So you got this bagel that's burning, or you got something. Even if you don't know what it is, what's your checklist? What do you go through every single time something like that happens to make sure before you pull the big alarm and everybody scatters? I mean, it's just like.
That's what they did. They pulled the big alarm and everybody's out.
Right, and it's like, hey, if we would have gone through at least a little bit of a checklist, just go, okay, what's the root of the issue quickly, and you probably could have prevented, how much money could that have cost that airport? How much time did it cost that airport?
a lot.
Sure, there had to be like some sort of airport employee near that restaurant
To
who
go
could
get the
run
burnt
over
bagel.
there and say, "Hey, what's going on over here? You guys got a fire, or is it something else?" And they could,
Or if they had a
said, "No, it's
system
a
that
burnt,
if it
it's a burnt
happened,
bagel."
if a bagel was getting burnt, that they could have picked up the phone and called and rang in the airport security and just said, "Let you know it's a burnt bagel."
Yeah,
And
hey, we
coulda-
got some
you know,
smoke
Or they could
over
have got on
here.
loudspeaker and went, burnt bagel.
that would have worked really good. Your voice doing it too is even better.
I mean, I guess the flip side of this is they did have a system in place, which was whenever there's smoke, they pull the big alarm
And run like hell.
So
Right.
they were maybe too attached to their system to be flexible and saying,
Right.
like, okay, our system says you see a smoke alarm, you evacuate the airport.
You're right. That probably is
Sure.
it. So this is a good time to take a look at
Reevaluate
your
your system
and
a little bit.
reevaluate
Right.
it and see how it can be more efficient because
You still want the big alarm if you need it, but could we have prevented getting to the big alarm in an efficient manner to...
So how can we relate the systems talk and things about systems to anybody listening that maybe they're an employee somewhere, or maybe it's in their own home, maybe it's just a household thing? Like, are there any other types of things that you think of when it comes to systems? What is a system to you?
I mean, to me, it's an efficient way to get to an end result.
Yeah.
And that's going to get the or should I say to the end of the road to get the results that you want.
Without having to like think about it, right?
Right.
Like it's like
Right.
you don't want to go,
To go turn on a light switch, that's a system. You walk over, you hit the switch. As
Yeah.
stupid as it sounds. Now, if you walk over and you mess with the switch and you don't ever flick it because you didn't think to flick it would be the right way.
or for instance, not having your light switch by your door, so when you walk in, it's there. If you had it on the other side of the room, that wouldn't make any sense, right?
Exactly.
So that's a system, right?
Everything
It's
you do
smart.
is systematically. If you really stop and think about it on a daily basis, everything you do is pretty systematic to.
But don't you think there are those key fundamental parts? Like, so in our sales process, we have the fundamental parts that you do weekly, right?
Right.
Consistency is what we believe is key. You can be sloppy at all, but if you're consistent with it. So I think in a personal life, talking about some New Year's resolution stuff, there's a lot of times that people and everybody listening here will go, I got too much going on. I am too busy. Maybe I'm going to start this deal. Maybe I'm going to do any of that. You need to sit down and create yourself a calendar and a system for your personal life, like you got a boss telling you what to do. If you do that, and like, look, here's the thing. I believe the important part is you've got to do it long enough to create the habit. Don't go out there and decide to fill up your calendar with, where you're somebody who always wings everything. You have no personal system in place for you or your family, but yet you all of a sudden want to try to implement 10 of them, right?
Right. You drive everybody crazy.
It'll fail miserably. Come up with those couple key fundamentals. If you were to try to talk about maybe a couple key foundational points for if they were starting a weekly deal, what would some things be that you recommend?
I mean, just once you sit down and figure it out, or what you're going to do and what you want to do and how you want to do it, a lot of people, we talk about it all the time. Be consistent and continue to do it. Don't commit to doing it for 2 or 3 weeks, because after about the third week of any system you try to put in place, it's going to be very painful. It's going to feel you're going to start questioning it, because there's going to be that downtime to really get through it. Commit yourself to doing it for 6 to 12 weeks so you can really see the results from it. And that's one of the things that we preach a lot, especially with newer people coming in that we're trying to implement systems with, is no matter what happens, you got to commit to me for the next 12 weeks that you are going to run this just like we talk about. And then usually about week 3, week 4, they're calling going, damn, this is tough. I'm like, keep going, keep going, keep going. Same thing, anything that you do, just forming that habit over that period of time, because it becomes painful, because there's going to be parts of what you do that you don't like to do. That's the reason why people avoid doing those things whenever they're running any kind of system. Is once you get to that point of something you don't enjoy doing or you don't like doing, all of a sudden the system's not any good anymore, and that's not the case. You got to push through those things.
And I think, like we talked about, it's also good to revisit that at some point and say, are we being the most efficient that we can be, and not just do things because that's the way we've always done
and
them.
And also understanding, to me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Is a system's not always, system doesn't mean easy.
Yeah.
System doesn't mean easy. It just gives you a
roadmap to follow.
Yeah, a roadmap to follow, and you got to be consistent with it and execute.
And here's a good thing. We're going to come back on this third segment, because we're going to talk about some New Year stuff and with systems, because I wanted to roll these two in together. Is that I think I got a couple ideas that I want to throw out to you guys and give you some sample, basically cornerstone things that I believe can really improve your weeks of systems of things like that. And we're going to bring that up on the third segment when we get done. We got a listener email as well, so we'll be back on the third segment of Second Shot.
Now that's what I call ignorance on fire. More of Second Shot with Heath Oaks still to come.
You guys have been listening to Second Shot and hearing us talk about it. You need to go pick up my book, Ignorance on Fire, A Journey of Failing Your Way to Success. You can get it on Amazon in a paper book. You can also hear this beautiful voice of mine in audiobook style on Audible or anywhere you're going to get your audiobooks. Guys, this book took a lot of time to put into it, and I believe it can really be some life-changing stuff to help you on your path to success. And hopefully you're going to fail your way to success just like I did. Ignorance on Fire, A Journey of Failing Your Way to Success. Amazon.com, Audible.com, audiobooks, paper books, everything. Get it, share it with your people, and I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Go pick it up today.
Kick off your boots or suit up. The choice is yours. Welcome back to Second Shot on RNCN.
Burnt bagels.
It's going to catch on.
It will. I'm
It's
telling
going to
you.
catch
It's
on.
going to be the new...
I had a boy at my house the other night, and I started calling him Pee-wee. And now everybody's calling him Pee-wee. I'm good at that kind of stuff. I mean, if someone's looking for a marketing person, I'm the guy.
So burnt bagels is going to be the new thing, like burnt bagels, like for like the everything random, right? Well, I want to roll in. I want to roll from the bagel thing, and I want to talk about some systems about New Year's, because this be out, New Year's, where giving some tips and ideas. But first of all, I want to bring up one of our listeners sent an email, which on Christmas actually, and that's why I really wanted to bring this up, because I thought it was very cool. Sharon Bagnall, I probably said that wrong, but Sharon Bagnall. Dear Second Shot, I want to thank you for your continued podcast. I look forward to your weekly views on things. This past week, your podcast on who dines at your table really hit home. A few years ago, I changed who sat at my table of my life. I looked at friends that I didn't like their values, and I no longer want to hang out with them. I have made myself stronger and happier due to this choice. I have a career that I'm about to apply for a promotion in. Things that I never thought were possible are happening before me. I love to push myself and see the wonderful things that are happening. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Sharon Bagnall. And I thought it was perfect to bring this up because, like I've said, the whole who sits at your table was something that you really ingrained in me, that you brought up with a lot of the managers, and so it obviously worked very well for her as well.
It's huge when you stop and look at it. And I could talk about that for hours, but it's neat to see people talk about it, because I always talk, when you talk about people sitting at your table, you know, and you can attest to, anybody can, it may be a family member that's at your table that can't be at your table anymore. And sometimes it may be someone that hurts you that can't be at your table anymore. But growing as a person and progressing, whether it's personally or business-wise,
it's kind of part
huge.
of looking at that system and
Right.
taking a look at it. Sometimes it's taking a look at who's at your table.
Right. Or what you're bringing to the table with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it could be hindering you too. But at the end of the day, you know, I always, you know, systematically all the way down to that, if someone's sitting at your table that is
Poison.
Yeah, is poison, or that doesn't see things the way you see them, you know, from even talking to systems, to talk about implementing a system of any sort, sometimes they got to go away, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I always look up and, you know, I struggle a lot. We were talking on the break, you know, about, you know, being consistent with listening to positive stuff. I you know,
Your personal systems.
right, personal systems.
You're consistent in the business systems.
Right.
You've struggled in your consistent
Right.
personal
And
systems.
it's funny though, this year has been a big year for me on that, because Heath had finally calmed me into listening to podcasts. Next thing you know, he's doing a podcast, which has been kind of fun. And it actually, when I get to come up and do these, it kind of slaps me in the face whenever I've been slacking, you know.
Yeah.
But what's funny is you know, when you start getting yourself away from like listening to the typical music that you listen to, and I've got a lot of young guys that I hang around that with my son and everybody, so we listen to any kind of music you could possibly think of. And I used to hear people say all the time, garbage in, garbage out. It's true, you know.
Is.
It really is
And
true.
if you listen to the words of a lot of that stuff, it's
if you-
garbage.
But I mean, it sounds good, it sounds catchy, but at the end of the day, you know, and that's been a big struggle, you know, for me a lot, is staying consistent with putting good things in my mind all the time. And I challenge anyone, if you really want to start progressing as a person, start putting positive things in your ears to go to your mind, because it'll make a big difference. If you run around listening to, you know, some of these hip hop groups and stuff, and I like them too, you know, even though I'm from East Texas, I like them too. Some of the newer ones for you younger folks.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to talk about them on the air. If you sit around and listen to that all day, you're going to want to be like that all day. And, you know, it's funny because it's great music. It's good to listen to. They're talented people, but it doesn't inspire you to get up and move and do things, not just work-wise, personal-wise, everything, you know? So it's pretty cool.
I told y'all kind of the last time I want to give you some ideas of some personal systems, right? Because we talk about the systems and some of the things implement, and why it's really hit me more this year is because I've always been good about it, but when you have a baby, that throws systems way off, okay? And it threw my systems way off this year, okay? Because everything went to haywire. But let me give you a couple of examples of what a personal system can look like. For me, I'll sit there and always complain, oh, I need to exercise. I just don't want to. That's just all there is to it. Now, if I schedule the time in and did it, what you have to do, I want to encourage you, instead of these New Year's resolutions of all these things that nobody ever does, have a New Year's resolutions to implement one or two systems that can help you personally grow and develop your relationship with your wife, maybe.
Sure.
Or personally develop, or with your husband, or personally develop, just growing in professional environments. So let me give you a couple things. One thing that part of my system has been in the past, obviously I have failed greatly lately with Brighton, but we're finally getting her into a routine. Headspace. So there's a thing called Headspace. You can download this app, okay? I know it sounds kind of weird, but like I really got into the meditation thing in the Headspace.
You are weird, dude.
I found that, and it's just one of those, here's what it is. The word meditation has a lot of weird things, but honestly, all it is sitting in peace and quiet with your own thoughts and reflecting. And you'll be amazed that when you stop your mind from running and you're just reflecting, how much peace it kind of starts you with. So, I started, when I really got into that, I got my routine up a little bit earlier in the day, and the first thing I do after I get up is go sit down, and I do the Headspace app. You can get this Headspace app, download it, and it kind of walks you through it because I knew nothing about it, and I started finding it very, very peaceful. Next was 10 to 15 minutes of reading some sort of book. Then I get up, go throughout my day, and that was basically my personal system, and then I always had podcasts I listened to in the car versus radio. That was like my personal development system, okay? Right. Now, I've added things over the years. So the Grateful and Goals, right, that my wife and I do before we leave every morning, we do the Grateful and Goals. That's a part of our personal system, My wife's system is a little different. It is when she gets off work, it's an hour of a workout, right? Like that's her thing, okay? Those are things, see, all these people that you think, oh, they get so much done, it's because they have a system. Like I set my days up to know that I got these things I can get accomplished. Could I do more if I wanted to? I can make excuses about working out. I could fit that in somewhere. I just don't want to do it. That's just the truth of the matter, okay?
For sure.
But I know but that's the thing of my personal system.
Right. And mind you, Heath's system is good. That he's progressed to that. So don't try to do all that tomorrow. But the one thing that my advice would be, talking about the first subject that we talked about with being a great husband or being a great dad, commit yourself to every single morning or every single evening or 2 or 3 times a week, from a parental perspective or a wife or husband perspective, to just do a little something extra that your spouse does that they don't have to do.
Make it a conscious effort.
Right. I try to help, like Ava takes a lunch every day to school, right? So I try to at least as many times a week as I can make her lunch so Amy doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Or in the morning times, if I don't have to be anywhere early, it's kind of weird. They probably don't even know what, most of the people where we go to school, they're like, what the hell are these people doing? Because there's mom and dad in the car. How weird is it? I go with my wife. We drop the kids off, go get her a cup of coffee, go home, and have a little time to ourselves to kind of talk for a little bit, and then we get up and move. Something consistent like that will be huge for you, And
don't you that's what you need to do between now and New Year's is evaluate what's the weakest part of your life, whether it's in your personal, maybe it is your personal development growth, right? Because maybe your marriage is stronger. So maybe you got to pick it up here. Implement one or two things that you can block out. Nothing big. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Read for 15 minutes a day. That is one of the most, if you're talking about personal development stuff, if you just literally start waking up 15 minutes earlier and just say, I'm going to set a timer 15 minutes and read. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing massive. If you do that for 30 days, your life will change.
Well, it's amazing how the little things can add up. I started doing this myself when I would get home from work and I just want to come home and I want to relax. I don't want to do anything. And I would sit down and we'd have dinner or whatever, and then we'd spend the rest of the night doing whatever. But I found myself saying, okay, what can I do? I don't want to clean the entire house every night when I get home or whatever, but what can I do to make the house better or make our lives a little bit better before I sit down for the evening?
And you're thinking about, this is perfect. This is creating a system.
Like, do I go, I can go do a load of laundry. That takes me 2 minutes. I can throw a load of laundry in, and then I can go sit down and I can feel relaxed. Or I can.
And how much will your wife appreciate that?
Oh, she appreciated it tons because she
just knows you care.
Right, exactly. Or I can put it, there's these papers have been sitting out on the table for a week. We've been meaning to file them away or whatever. Put them away, throw them away, clean up one little area, just something, like do something before you sit down and get your mind in that, okay, I'm done for the day mode. Because I get there, I get there. I think we all probably get there where we're like, I don't want to do anything else today. I'm done for the day. Leave me alone. Like, don't give me another chore to do. But if you can just knock a couple of those things out before you get there, that's.
But see, what's interesting, huge. Matt, is this is what a perfect example of creating a system, tailoring it to yourself is. I know me, that by the end of the day, that's why my system of things really start in the morning. Mm-hmm. So it varies person. It's not yours is right for you.
Yeah.
Okay. But like mine is always my stuff's in the morning because I know by the time the evening comes, like I get to that point where I don't do it. So it doesn't matter. You need to take a look at it and go. If your marriage is in trouble, look. Start maybe every 2 weeks have a date night you and your wife somehow. Figure that out. If you got to work a couple extra hours to hire a babysitter one night a week, your butt needs to be doing it to get some time with. Look, it ain't even going out dinner. Maybe somebody watching the kids. Why don't you pull up start a little fire in the backyard and sit around with your wife and just listen to her? We do it all the time. Okay, we do too. We love it. These things are important, and to start being the men that our wives and being the wives that your men are expecting, vice versa. Start just actually paying an effort. So, looking at your personal life, your business life, whatever it is, your marriage or any of that, a system is simple. Do one or two things differently, daily and or weekly. Commit to those one or two things. And like I said, it is simple as getting up and meditating for 15 minutes or reading a book 15 minutes or switch saying, this year, I'm not listening to the radio. I'm only listening to positive, inspirational podcasts. Or once every 2 weeks, I'm going to make sure that I carve a night out where I just sit down with my wife or my husband and go out just kind of in the backyard, whatever, dinner, whatever, to listen and care.
Right. And can I say, when you start looking at what you want to do, you've got to be honest with yourself. And, in any type
don't have to make massive shifts.
The biggest thing that I've seen for me that's really, progressed me, to where I'm at today compared to where I was at even 7, 8, 10 years ago was put other people before yourself,
Yep.
it makes doing those things a lot easier. If you don't, it's a lot tougher. And by any means, I am not a saint. So when my wife listens to this, she's going to be, you better step it up, you know. But at the end of the day, you know.
But the more you talk
Heart's in the
about
right
it,
place.
the harder it is for you not to
That's
do it,
why
right? Because you're going to leave this.
I
and
mean,
you
I've
know,
actually had discussions about. I hate going on those podcasts because I'm not a pedestal guy. I don't want to be put on a pedestal. I don't want anyone to think that I'm this great person because I feel like I'm getting better. Am I great? No. But at the end of the day, it does. It makes you really realize, and it's been a cool deal.
Well, I just want to encourage everybody to go to this year with one or two things that you can make 15 minutes earlier doing a meditating or reading or every 2 weeks having time alone with your spouse. Like these little bitty things will add up to making your life drastically different. And going back to making it cool to be a cool father or husband, I think is something that I want to make a mission out of to really focus on next year as well. And
Me too.
we're going to wrap up this third segment. Where they can find you, Robert?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Yep, that's about
That's
all
all I
Robert
got.
said on
But
LinkedIn.
don't forget about
Big
the
social media guy.
burnt bagels.
Burnt bagels.
Spread it, folks.
As always, you can look me up at Ignorance on Fire or at Heath Oaks. Matt, appreciate it, buddy. And I hope you have a great New Year's and you stay
bet.
safe. And we'll be back next week.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.